Hey guys, Bob here from Bob's World. Okay, so I posted a question regarding Tinywhoops, and basically, first I'll tell you guys right now, I'm pretty good at flying these things. I'm obviously not a pro. I'm not all of that, so make sure nobody comments and says, "Ah, you suck," whatever. Okay, that doesn't matter. But I've flown these a lot in the last couple months. I mean, a lot. And I think I might have something to offer you if you're thinking about doing a Tinywhoop. Maybe you're getting into them, you're struggling, or maybe you've been flying, 3.5 inch, 5 inch drones, and you want to try this out, or you've tried it, it's frustrating. I'm going to share with you some insights I've learned flying these, what works for me, and that's the key word, what works for me. So you could try these. If it don't work for you, I think when you're flying FPV drones, a lot of it is individual preference, obviously, right? So, fly what works for you, but, maybe this might help some of you out. This right here is using the Eco camera. I put some different motors on this, moved it over to the cockroach frame, which I really like. This is probably one of my most fun drones to fly, Tinywhoops. It's been super durable. I've been loving this thing. Got the Air 75 coming, which I'm looking forward to, and I also have the new HD0 Freestyle 65mm with the luxury or the Lux camera on board. But let's get into the flying. The first thing is I'll start. I'll fly here in a second, but when I first flew a Tinywhoop, I was super excited. I got in my garage, started flying, and one thing you're going to notice right away, especially if you've flown bigger drones, is they're naturally underpowered. Okay, there's just not a lot of power. That's been my experience. And so when you fly these, in some ways, I think these make you a better FPV pilot, especially when you bump back up to the bigger drones, because you have to compensate so much, whether you're hitting gates, you're freestyling, you're doing power loops, Matty flips, whatever. You really have to compensate for the lack of power at the bottom end of all those maneuvers, right? Also wind. The wind's died down today, which is awesome. But usually I'll fly this thing in the wind as well. But you also have to compensate for the wind. And it just makes you, I think, more nimble on the sticks. Like you're always having to adjust. And I think it makes you better. And it takes a while to get it with these Tinywhoops, I think. But once you get it, man, it unleashes everything. Like you totally can take this thing pretty much anywhere you want it to go. In the house, on the table, through a tree, whatever. Doesn't matter. For me, so far in my FPV experience, these have been the most fun to fly and the most versatile. Like I go fly this thing downtown around people, around buildings. I fly, the backyard, the neighbors see it. No one cares. It's so tiny, it's so quiet. They just don't even, most of the time they want to know what it is, So different reaction than like the bigger drones where they're screaming and people are, they got a negative connotation with those. And obviously they're more dangerous. Greg hit me in the ear with his the other day and nothing happened. Totally fine. All right. So let me get to flying, and I'll talk a little bit as I'm flying about some things that might help you. One thing I'll just say before I get it up here going is one thing I have found with the rates is I find, and again this is all preference, flying these with higher rates for me is much better than the lower rates. Now, if you're flying indoors really tight and you want to go really slow, having a really low camera angle, maybe not as aggressive rates might be helpful. But I'm just telling you from my experience, with these, a little bit more aggressive camera angle, higher rates. I think I'm flying at 200 for sensitivity. I think I'm flying at 1200 on the middle, and then I think for I can't remember, my brain doesn't work. For this is what happens when you get fucking old. Expo, Jesus. Expo I'm at 0.2. So 200, 1200, 0.2. And that's kind of dialed in for me. And why I like those rates is I feel like I'm so connected to this Tinywhoop. And wherever I point it, whenever I snap it, it is there. So without further ado, guys, let's do some flying. And I'll try to, I guess, show you some things while I'm flying. especially when it comes to the compensation. Again, once you get the sense of how to compensate, it's actually just really freaking epic. All right, let's get rolling. HD0 goggles, Radio Master Boxer Max. I'm loving this setup right here. All right, here we go. Okay, and so I probably should do a stick cam. You can see it. I mean, my sticks are pretty sensitive, but just cruising like this. Why I like those higher rates for this is it's like when I cut in like that, it just happens. Like there is no delay, but I can still get these tight spots, right? So you can hover. I mean, if you want to hover, you know, all that, you know, you want to have a less of a camera angle, just like the other drones. You just got to remember, like, watch this. At the bottom there, you're gonna have to start giving throttle before you get there, different than the other, like right there, see that? Little prop wash action. I'm throttling up before the descent even begins to compensate for that lack of power. I love flying these things. The other thing that I love about the Tinywhoops that is a little bit more forgiving in some ways is, you know, normally a bigger drone, when you throw it over, you got the inertia coming over, and you can do it if you snap the Tinywhoop enough. If you get enough of that little pop, you can get over and throw it over with the weight. But obviously not like a bigger drone. But what's nice about it not having so much of that throw is you don't feel like you're out of control, especially when you start pitching forward. You know, with a bigger drone, you pitch forward and it can feel like a rocket, and you can kind of panic, like, oh geez, you know, you're going too fast. With these Tinywhoops, you pitch forward and it just takes a little to slow it down. Like there's not much weight to it, so there's not a lot of inertia throwing this thing forward and freaking you out, right? Especially if you're just getting into acro, you know, flying FPV drone. And there you see at the end, battery's getting low, so it's starting to, you know, have a little less power, about 2 minutes. And let's bring her in though. I'll do another battery here, and I'll start showing you a little freestyle, okay? Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm just gonna shoot some.
I'm just doing a little tutorial. All right, my son's like, holy crap, Dad. All right, let's do another one. And let's do a little bit now. We'll do a little freestyle, and let's, I'll try to talk about that too, what I'm kind of doing. One thing I would encourage you too, when you first start with a whoop, you know, don't I mean, try to get into do the power loops and all that right away, but just do some cruising around and just practice kind of being in controlled flight, doing orbits around things, you know, kind of when you get the feel for it, you know, then you can start, you know, doing some power loops. Now I'll tell you, I almost went in the tree, guys. I had a little more power than I thought I would. But on these power loops, I give it quite a bit of power, and you can flip it around, but you gotta remember, when you flip it around, you're not going to have the power at the low end, so you gotta kind of plan for that. And one way to kind of do these easily is just go up and flick it. Just flick it around like that. Just do a quick flick and then power back up. Not really a power loop, but more like a back flip. Let's do it again. Not that I'm doing any great ones here, but just up, over, bring it around, throttle down a little bit. And that's it. That's it. Just be prepared. Practice maybe a little higher up, you know. You're going to have less throttle and maybe some prop wash at the bottom. Same when you're practicing like your rolls, you know, get a little higher up and just practice those so you get used to the, again, if you're too low, you're just not going to have the power at the bottom end. Now, one thing these whoops can be really fun for, I think, is zipping around like this, just speed racing. And this is where, again, I like the rates on the drone. See there, I'm starting to lose a little power, so and then you can do that and break your drone. Hold on. Okay, you know what I'm talking about? Durable. Everything just looks good, nothing broken. All right. So, my son's playing some hoops. I'm gonna go chase him here in a second. So again, over. Let me unplug that, guys. When you're A normal drone, you throw it over an obstacle, you got a lot of weight from that drone's going to help you get over. You're not going to have that with as much with the tiny, but you can pick up speed and throw it a little bit if you snap it. The nice thing, again, because there is less inertia, I think, with the Tinywhoop, it's a little more forgiving, right? And the other is when you're pitched forward, a regular drone, these bigger drones, 2.5, 3 inch, 5 inch, once you get going, if you're not done the acro a lot, it can feel like you can get out of control if you do not know how to do an air brake coming back like this. So with these, it's a little more forgiving. So when you do pitch forward and you start to slow down, it doesn't keep flying forward. So I think in some ways that's a real positive to learn acro, but also just have fun with these. I'm definitely less nervous flying these than a bigger drone. All right, let's go rip around. And again, the one thing you have to really get used to with these drones is the throttle. So but you can be so accurate with these, especially if it's not windy. I mean, if it's not windy, you can really just do some really accurate flying. Let's see if I can get through this, guys. There we go. And it just obviously takes practice. I would encourage you to get in the simulators that, you know, Velocidrone, the one for the Tinywhoops, I can't remember the name of it. I do that one quite a bit. Get in there, play with some rates. Is it exactly like flying in the real world? Obviously not. But it will give you a sense of that lack of power and how to kind of compensate for that when you're flying. Like there, I had to really punch that throttle on the bottom end. And obviously with a bigger drone, I wouldn't have done that. But you can do stuff like that. You can throw it over, S-turn like that, without a problem if you just punch it, give it the punch at the right moment, and then de-throttle, take it down, and you'll be fine. I can't say enough. If you got a backyard, how much fun these are to fly. Like, they're kind of crazy. Now, as far as battery goes, I just watched, and I was doing this before the Bardwell video watch, but kind of confirmed it. And the same with Nick Burns. You know, with these, it's a 1-cell battery, so you can take these down. You know, don't go below 3, but you can see I'm at like 328 right now. It'll bounce up here. You just don't want to go below 3, obviously, but I'm keeping an eye on it. And let's just bring it in. 2 minutes, not bad. All right, let's do one more. I mean, this is probably not the best tutorial, but maybe you'll find it helpful. Again, find some obstacles just to kind of practice low flying around. Hey, you like that?
What?
The car?
No.
No.
Truck.
Just doing some low flying around. Don't be afraid to fly these things outside, even if there's a little wind. Greg and I rip these things outside all the time, even when it's windy here in the Midwest. Camera angle, find what works for you, but don't be afraid to push that angle up a little bit on these Tinywhoops. And don't be afraid to bump your rates up with these. I think, again, I've flown this with lower rates, you know, with the 555 rates, kind of gate racing rates. I've flown with my old rates I used to fly, like with the Avata. 200, 1200, 0.20 on the Expo, I found for me is the sweet spot. So let's do one more rip, and this time I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna push it. And that's the other thing, guys, don't be afraid to push these things. They are super durable, and if you do break it, they're really easy to fix. And that's the other thing I love about Tinywhoops. The parts are cheap, easy to fix, no problems. All right, this one, guys, I'm gonna shut up. I'm sure I might hoot and holler, but I'm just gonna go for it now.
Telemetry recovered.
Okay, let's go. Let's push it. Let's go, let's go. Oh, okay, famous last words. I might be able to get this. I got it out, yes. Epic. And if you get low to the ground when you fly these, the sense of speed is there. Like, yeah, it's not as fast as a big drone, but if you fly low like this, low and do proximity flying, it feels like the biggest rush, in my opinion. see what we can get in here. Is the garage door open? Nope. We're getting ready for winter here in Minnesota. You can be so accurate with these Tinywhoops with enough practice, guys. I mean, it is just when you get to the point where it just clicks, where you are just one the drone. I mean, that is like, it's the Matrix, man. It's like you just do that. But don't be afraid to run this. I mean, the drone is. I'll pick it up for you. Show you. Like the drone, totally fine. Totally fine. These cockroach frames, I've tried some of the other ones. These are my favorite. They feel durable, like, you know, they got a little sponge to them, but they're not so stiff they just break on you. I've crashed this one so many times, not one crack, nothing. So, all right, guys. I don't know if any of that even helped you. I mean, I didn't write down a list of things, so if I missed something, or I was totally off the wall, or you want me to like talk more about something, in regards to freestyle, you just got to practice. I'd go in the simulator, practice, do the tricks up higher in the air, get used to the throttle on these. I'm telling you, the Tinywhoops to me is all about throttle control. Throttle control, when you're coming out of stuff, you've got to start throttling up a lot earlier than you would with a normal drone. But once you get that, that's it, man. The rest is history. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Share your comments. Thanks for subbing and liking all that stuff. I hope you guys have tried a Tinywhoop or you're flying them, and I'd love to hear what you think about them. Cheers, peace. Have an awesome day.